Good day, everyone. Today, MiHoYo has released their special program, so let's go ahead and take a quick look at it. Now, the first thing to note, of course, is the trailer. There are a number of things of interest in here, especially the area itself looks fantastic. There's one thing which I've kind of felt with Mondstadt and Liyue is that they felt kind of bare. There wasn't really anything in them, there wasn't anything particularly interesting to look at, but Inazuma is looking to be a massive step up from that. It looks, so far, like a truly fantastic looking zone. It looks like the story could be quite interesting as well. There appears to be some sort of resistance, and it looks like some small war is going to be taking place as well. So to be honest, I am quite looking forward to both the exploration aspect and the story in 2.0. We also get our first look at a few of the new Inazuma characters, a number of which look quite interesting, and we also get a look at the Raiden Shogun, who, once again, is wielding a sword, and so one would imagine would be a sword character. But of course, we'll have to wait for a later patch to see. Now, personally speaking, I would be quite pleased if she ended up being a sword character, not because that I want her to specifically be a sword character, but rather that I don't want her to be a bow or a polearm character due to my theory. Said theory simply being that there are 7 Archons, yet only 5 weapon types, and so I was hoping that each Archon would have its own weapon, and thus meaning that there would have to include 2 new weapon types. If Raiden instead ends up being, say, a polearm character, that would kind of dash that hope. Now we also learn that Ayaka, Yoimiya, and Sayu will all be included in this update, with Ayaka coming first. We also get a look at these characters to see a bit of what they can do. Ayaka looks as though she infuses her sword with cryo from her dash, has quick normal attacks as one would assume, and a interesting looking charge stack. Her elemental skill doesn't look to be anything particularly special, however her ultimate may look to be a bit more interesting. One major important thing to note of her ultimate is that it does not look very large. This may mean, if it does a significant amount of damage, that you may want to bring a character along with her that has significant crowd control so that you can actually hit a good number of enemies with her ultimate. Now the next character up is Yoimiya. Now I will say I am really rather interested in Yoimiya, as she looks like she might fit more along the lines of 4-star bow characters rather than 5-star bow characters in this game. What do I mean by that? Currently, there's a really strange divide between the 4-star bow characters and the 5-star bow characters. Specifically, single target versus AoE. For the 4-star bow characters in the game, they're pretty much entirely single target. Their normal attacks are single target, their charge attacks are purely single target. If you take a look at, say, Fischl, Oz hits a single enemy at a time. Diona's elemental skill also hits one enemy per paw, and so they're pretty much just single target characters. Amber has a little bit of AoE, but that's about it. And yet, despite the fact that they're single target characters, they really don't do any more damage against a single enemy than just other characters who can hit multiple enemies at once. Now the 5-star bow characters in the game are very different. The first to come out was Venti, a massive gathering AoE damage monster. He's better at gathering than any other character in the game, pretty much, and does a bunch of damage to the characters who he has gathered. Then came Childe. Childe completely changes his attacks from being bow attacks into a AoE melee hydro attacks, once again becoming something of an AoE monster. Then there is Ganyu. What makes Ganyu such a great main DPS is the bloom part of her charge stack, which, once again, is AoE. And with her massive ultimate, she, once again, is something of an AoE monster. This is very juxtaposed to their 4-star variants in the game, who are pretty much just single target, and not even that great at it. That's why personally I find Yoimiya to be rather interesting, as she looks to be more along the lines of the 4-star bow characters, pretty much a single target unit. Now this is something which could be good, or bad, depending on how it's handled. For a character to be pretty much purely single target, that means that they have to beat out the characters who do AoE damage, at least against a single enemy. If they do the same amount of damage, or less damage than a character who can do that same amount of damage to multiple enemies, then they're kind of just a worse character. And then Yoimiya would end up pretty much the same as the 4-star bow characters in the game, purely single target, but not better at single target than any of the AoE characters. Now looking at her kit a bit more in depth, unlike characters like say Ayaka or Keqing, who obtain their infusion through basically a talent, Yoimiya seems to be more along the lines of Child, and more specifically Hu Tao, where they have their elemental skill turns their attack into pyro. With that being the case, and the fact that her elemental skill doesn't look to apply any damage, looks more like a stance change, and her bow attacks don't seem to change at all aside from the little pyro effect that are on the arrows, she almost certainly has some sort of damage increase to her normal attacks from her elemental skill. Now of course at this point it's difficult to say whether it's a flat damage increase, if it's something along the lines of Hu Tao where she gains some other stat and stacks it onto her normal attacks, but it's probably going to be something along those lines. That also means that she will likely have downtime just like Hu Tao and Child. Now with this, if you say already have Hu Tao, you may ask, well, is there any point in me getting Yoimiya if I already have Hu Tao? Don't they basically do a very similar thing? Except that Hu Tao can technically do that damage to multiple enemies. If you're using Hu Tao with Xinqiu and doing a Vaporize comp, then you basically kind of need a sub DPS. Because your rotation is not based around Hu Tao's 16-second cooldown, but rather Xinqiu's 21-second cooldown. And so you end up using Hu Tao only about 10 seconds out of every 21-second period of time. If Yoimiya has a very similar cooldowns to Hu Tao, then she may very well be able to fill in that gap. And then you just have a very high pyro/vaporize build where you throw up Xinqiu's ultimate, swap to say Hu Tao, go through her rotation is now on cooldown, so you then swap to Yoimiya, go through her rotation, and then repeat the process. Now the next character was looking to be a 4-star character, being Sayu, who so far I can't particularly say I am very interested in. She seems to have a almost Sonic-like elemental skill. My guess is you can probably hold it for a while to increase the duration of the rolling. And then she looks like she has an elemental burst, which based on the pluses around it, is probably actually a heal. Now this does make her an Anemo healer, which is pretty nice, as you can then have a healer that you can give the Viridescent Mariner set to. However, the one major downside I find with her is that from both of her skills, she looks to have absolutely zero crowd control, which for me is a definite minus. If she doesn't have crowd control, then at least so far from my perspective, she's pretty much just a healer who can increase the damage of your party by giving her an artifact set, which you can kind of already do in a lot of setups with other healers. We also got to see some other characters, but Sara, I think, is pretty much was the only one who we actually got to see their weapon, which looks like to be a bow, so it's very difficult to say much about any of the other characters who showed up. We also get to see that there are new crafted weapons, which is fantastic, though at the moment they haven't said what they do yet, so we'll have to wait and see. We also see the weapons that are likely to be on the weapon banner, which frankly I don't particularly think, not necessarily that they don't look good, but I don't think either of them fit Ayaka or Yoimiya. They look like they belong on an Electro character. Now, next point to talk about are the new artifacts, which are interesting. The first artifact set, I think, is fantastic. However, I do want to try to reel back people's expectations a bit. I am concerned that people will look at the set and think, oh, my energy recharge issues are completely solved, because I can put tons of energy recharge into the character and gain a 75% damage bonus. So I'll do more damage than ever before while being able to use my ultimate as much as I want. That's not really what this set does. Because if you think about it, in order to obtain that maximum 75% damage bonus, means you need 300% energy recharge. For you to get 300% energy recharge, that means essentially sacrificing all your other stats. And a 75% damage bonus isn't going to cut sacrificing the rest of your stats. Another way to look at this set once again, to see the difference in damage, will be to look at what would happen if I use this set and I use an attack percentage timepiece versus a energy recharge timepiece. Now a 5-star attack percentage piece will give you 46.6 attack. How much attack will that likely mean? Well, if you say are using a 5-star character with a middle of the road 4-star weapon, you'll probably have somewhere around 800 attack, which means the attack percentage timepiece would net you nearly 400 attack. If you instead, however, go with energy recharge, you will gain 51.8% energy recharge, which will give you just under a 13% damage bonus. Now in most cases, nearly 400 attack is probably going to be better than a 13% damage bonus, likely significantly. It is essentially going to be a set that if you build into energy recharge, you get a little bit of damage back. It's not a complete damage loss from spending into energy recharge. However, you will still be losing damage. It's still, I think, a fantastic set. The second set, on the other hand, I personally don't ever see myself using. Now I'll have to kind of look at what characters would want this. Now, looking at normal charge and plunge attack damage increased by 50%, one of the first things you may think about are physical characters, right? However, there's really no reason to use this set if you're a physical character, as the Pale Flame set gives exactly the same bonuses, just without the 15 energy cost. The real reason, though, I kind of think that I don't really like this set is that it almost feels like your ultimate is being held captive. And what do I mean by that? And I think as most people look at this set, they might go, oh, it's fine. My ultimate just costs 15 more energy. And that's really not the way to look at this set. First of all, even if you were to look at it that way, you have to think about it, oh, my ultimate costs 15 more energy every time I use my elemental skill. Most characters use their elemental skill more than one time per ultimate cast. And each time you use that ability, you lose 15 energy. Now, the reason why I kind of say that it's almost like your ultimate is being held captive is, let's take the scenario when, let's say, you just enter the Abyss, you have your ultimate up, you're going to start your rotation. How are you going to do so? Well, obviously you're not going to start with your ultimate, because then you have 0 energy, and then so you won't have the 15 energy needed to obtain the damage bonus. So what you will have to do instead is use your elemental skill. You will lose 15 energy, however you will gain some of that energy back from the energy particles from your elemental skill, and then you will continue to go about doing your combos and so on and so forth. If you want to use your ultimate, however, you will have to gain that 15 energy back, which shouldn't take very long. Maybe it takes you, say, 2.5 seconds to get that 15 energy back. You use your ultimate, but now you're at 0 energy. And so now you have to gain another 15 energy back by the time of your next skill cast. So let's say you're using a 5-star character and their ultimate takes 1.5 seconds to occur. And we continue with that after using your skill. It takes you 2.5 seconds due to the energy particles from your elemental ability to obtain the 15 energy that you lost to use your ultimate. So you use your skill, you take 2.5 seconds to generate that 15 energy lost, use your ultimate, which takes another 1.5 seconds, and then you're sitting at 4 seconds of the way into this your damage buff. And so you need to obtain 15 energy within the span of 6 seconds in order to be able to have this damage bonus permanently. Now, of course, if you don't have it, you could simply wait a little while to use your elemental skill until it comes back up. But for me, I would honestly kind of feel like I can't even use my ultimate, because if I use it, and then next time my elemental skill comes around to reapply my damage bonus, if I don't have the energy, then I no longer have my damage bonus. So personally, as I said earlier, I just don't really see myself using this set. Now for some other stuff to mention, they talked about how you may now link your PlayStation account and your MiHoYo accounts. So I'm assuming this means that PlayStation users can now use other devices as well, such as mobile and PC, and thus aren't imprisoned into purely using PlayStation, which should definitely be very nice for people who started on PlayStation but would like to use other devices. So definitely a very good change. Now the final thing I guess I'd like to touch on is the new weapon banner mechanic. Now, from what I can tell from this, it's pretty much purely a whale mechanic. And I don't mean to say that, oh, it's something for whales that's awful, whales shouldn't get stuff. Not at all. I hope this allows them to spend less money. What I mean by saying it's a whale mechanic is simply that it isn't going to apply to any of the people who are low spenders or straight up free to play. And the reason for that being not because, oh, you will never end up wishing up to the point of getting 3 5 stars on the weapon banner, you know? At some point in time, after having played the game long enough, that may happen. And maybe you even prioritize weapons over characters. The reason why this won't do anything for people who don't whale on the game is specifically this bit right here. The charted course towards a certain weapon can be changed or cancelled. However, after doing so, any current fate points will be cleared. Now, what I read from that, if, say, you wished on this weapon banner, and you wanted this one specific weapon, and you didn't get it, you've obtained a fate point. But as a free-to-play or low spender, you don't have enough to continue wishing on this banner, so you're just going to hold off until another weapon banner comes about that you would like to wish on. And so, that weapon banner comes around. You find the weapon that you'd like, you choose that through this epitomized path, and whoops, you've changed the weapon that you're trying to get. So your current fate points have been cleared and you start at 0. And you can see that even further down here. At the end of the current period of epitome invocation, any current fate points will be cleared. So unlike Pity, for example, where it carries over to future banners, this fate system does not. And so, for the majority of us, probably changes absolutely nothing for the weapon banner. It is just as bad as it has always been. Now, with that bit of unfortunate news out of the way, 2.0 is, so far at least, definitely shaping up to be very fun looking. So far, the zone looks fantastic. I'm hyped for the characters that we'll be getting, and the future characters that we've also been shown through the story trailers, and I'm looking forward to what we have in store. The major thing in which I'm currently wondering, honestly, is whether or not I will simply instantly, upon 2.0 coming out, summon and obtain Ayaka, or if I should instead wait and get through the story to the point where Ayaka shows up and then wish for her upon meeting her. And so I'd be interested in knowing which you think I should do. But with that, we reach the end of the video. Let me know what you thought of the trailer. What do you think of the artifact sets that are coming out? Are you planning to get any of the characters in 2.0? And if there's anything that you think I missed, please do let me know down below. Thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a great day.